I get eager staring at the endless list of synths on Amazon, wondering whether you should spend a good chunk of your studio budget on another piece of gear that might sit idle on a shelf. The fear of what if it doesn't fit my workflow is real, especially when a synth's got the kind of name that promises a lot, the Arturia MatrixBrute Noir 49-key Black Edition. If you're trying to decide whether this analog monster will actually help you create, or just add another layer of complexity you'll never touch, keep listening. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, let's talk about the kind of setup most musicians run into when they buy a full-featured analog synth. You've got your DAW, a handful of MIDI controllers, maybe a couple of Eurorack modules or a digital piano, and you're looking for something that either expands your sound palette or replaces a piece you already own. The MatrixBrute sits at the intersection of those two needs. It's a 49-key keyboard, which is already a step up from the 25-key units that many synth enthusiasts start with, so you have a playable range that can cover bass, leads, and chords without jumping octaves constantly. That alone makes it more practical for live gigs or jam sessions where you don't want to be constantly shifting patches. What really sets the MatrixBrute apart is the dual Brute series oscillator sections. In practice, that means you can run two independent analog oscillators, each with its own waveforms and modulation options, and then route them through the matrix for complex signal paths. If you've ever tried to get a fat-sounding lead, you know that a single oscillator can feel thin after a while. With two oscillators you can detune them, blend a saw and a triangle, or create FM-style interactions without having to stack two separate synths. For a producer who's already comfortable with the classic subtractive synthesis workflow, the Matrix provides a hands-on way to experiment beyond the usual low-pass filters. On the contrary, if you're a bedroom producer who relies heavily on software synths and never touches hardware knobs, you might find the learning curve steep. The Matrix routing board can look like a spider web, and without a clear idea of what you want to sculpt, you could spend more time hunting for a sound than actually using it. The built-in 64-step sequencer is another practical feature that matters after the purchase. In real life, sequencers are either a brilliant inspiration engine or an annoying time sink. With the MatrixBrute, each step can be assigned not only a note but also modulation parameters, think envelope depth, filter cutoff, or oscillator pitch. If you like building patterns that evolve over time, you can program a rise in resonance over the course of a bar, and the synth will handle it without you needing to automate those changes in your DAW. On the flip side, the sequencer isn't a complete DA replacement. You still need to sync it via MIDI or CV if you want it to groove perfectly with other gear. That's fine for a modular setup, but if you're looking for a plug-and-play sequencer that just runs on its own, you might feel limited. Speaking of CV and MIDI integration, the MatrixBrute's ability to be both a CV hub and a MIDI device is a hidden trade-off that often goes overlooked in specs sheets. If you already own a Eurorack system, you can drive the synth's parameters via CV and let the synth drive other modules in return. It essentially becomes a bidirectional bridge between analog and digital worlds. In a real studio scenario, that means you could route a LFO from your modular system into the Matrix's filter while simultaneously sending the Matrix's oscillator output back into a filter module. That opens up a world of hybrid textures. However, if you don't have any modular gear, that dual-role capability might sit idle, and you'll only be using the MIDI side, which, while solid, isn't the main reason many people buy this synth. Now, who should actually consider the MatrixBrute? If you're a composer who already spends time shaping sounds by hand, loves the tactile feel of knobs, and wants a central instrument that can serve as a bass, lead, or pad source, this synth is a solid candidate. The 49 keys give you enough range to play full chords, and the dual oscillators plus matrix routing let you dive deep without needing extra modules. It also makes sense for live performers who want a single instrument that can cover multiple sonic roles. The onboard effects, though not overly elaborate, provide quick polish, so you can get a decent sound out of the box for a gig without having to run external processors. On the other hand, if you're someone who primarily produces in the box, relies on presets, or has a tight budget, the MatrixBrute might be overkill. You'll be paying a premium for analog circuitry that only shows its value when you invest the time to program it. Plus, the synth is relatively large, fitting a 49-key keyboard, an extensive matrix, and a sequencer onto a single